It is a new month, which means it is time to head back to the Nintendo Switch eShop, where I dig through the chaff, I fight through the detritus, I find you 10 fantastic Nintendo Switch eShop games that I think every collection really needs. Gotta thank user TomAlica420 for suggesting this game here. This is called Splasher, and Splasher is a really interesting precision platformer that utilizes different paint colors to give you different platforming abilities. So at its core, you're going from point A to point B. It's a traditional platformer in that regard, but where the game really kind of leans into its exceptionalness, that's not a word, where the game really leans into its mechanics is with the different paint colors. So different paints will allow you to do different things. Like red is going to allow you to stick to walls and climb up a little bit. Yellow is going to bounce you all over the place like a Super Ball. It's a really fun way to make a game interesting. And it's not just something where you're laying down the colors. You can, but the game is actually going to have different things that are shooting out colors as well onto the different maps. And it's going to shoot water out to take those things away from you to add a little bit of challenge to the precision platforming. I'm really enjoying this one. Precision platformers aren't usually something I really get into outside of something like Super Meat Boy, which is just exceptional. But this one, this is a solid game. Splasher's $14.99, and if you're looking for something that is unique and familiar at the same time, check this one out. We've gotten a lot of really amazing kind of like tribute video games this year, and Nico Derico, The Magical World, is a love letter to all things Donkey Kong Country. This game is absolutely fantastic. First off, it's got a beautiful visual look. Like, the graphics in the game are absolutely stunning. The music is wonderful. The sound effects in the game are really good. There's even voice acting, which I really like. And like, down to the point that this is such a love letter to Donkey Kong Country, you even get like rideable animal mounts, which is really cool. It's a very cleverly designed game. And while it doesn't really go out of the way to try anything daring or new, because I mean, it doesn't, it's definitely something where you are playing a Donkey Kong Country game. Where it really sets itself apart is the fact where it also kind of leans into a little bit of Crash Bandicoot, where you actually get like chase behind levels, where you have to follow your character like up and down the screen as opposed to side to side. It's really clever. I'm enjoying it. The music in the game is spectacular, like I mentioned. It was composed by David Wise, and just a really, really solid platforming game here. It's a $29.99 investment, but I really do think this game is excellent, and if you are looking for a solid platformer that's a throwback to classic 16-bit days, this is the game for you. Fury Unleashed is a really interesting game because it does something ambitious with its design by taking a basic roguelike game, which is just a really simple, ever-changing title where you are playing a character and it's basically a shooter, but they set it in the theme of a comic book. So as you're playing, you're going through different panels in the comics and stuff like that. So it's kind of like a cross between, almost like a cross between Metal Slug and Comic Zone, and it just works incredibly well. The game is really, really cleverly done. There's challenges in almost every room where you're going to be able to complete quests to get different bonuses for your character. There's different weapons you're able to get. There is just a seriously fun challenge here, which I am thoroughly enjoying. And this is something that I didn't really expect to go after. I just was scrolling through the eShop one day. I was like, that looks interesting, and I like the idea, and did have the word I love, the roguelike, in there, so I was definitely willing to check it out. But having an absolute blast of this, I think it is a ton of fun. You can play 1 or 2 players couch co-op or online, and I think that's great. It's just a wonderful title. It's $19.99. It's really fun. Slam and Roll is not the game I expected. So when I originally was contacted by the publisher to get a review copy of this game, I looked at the screenshots and I thought it was going to be just a simple kind of sports-based platformer. And instead what I got is an absolutely brilliant single-screen arcade game that is a love letter to things like Snow Bros. The gameplay is fantastic. Each character that you're able to unlock, who specializes in a different sport that you're able to rescue as you play, has different abilities and plays just a little bit differently, that there's so much replay value built into this game. I'm legitimately blown away by what this game offers. Now, there's a few little like kind of piddly things that are kind of getting under my skin a little bit, like there's some translation issues. This was clearly developed by a team where English isn't their first language, but you can overlook that stuff for an absolutely lovely, wonderful, fantastic experience of gameplay here that just is really magical. And there's like over 200 levels to play. So there's tons and tons and tons of gameplay value here. This is a wonderful game. So if you're looking for something that is a classic single screen arcade game throwback that has a ton of replay value at a very good price of currently $9.59 until November 28th, goes back up to its standard price of $14.99 after that, check out Slam and Roll. I'm super impressed by this one.
You walk down the stairs and lock eyes with the princess. There's a heavy chain around her wrist.
I don't often get into visual novels, but there was something about the presentation of Slay the Princess Pristine Cut that really kind of captivated me. When I saw that this was available to request a review code for, I was intrigued. I remember hearing about this, but I never actually had played it before, so getting it and actually getting into the game and kind of dealing with the overall psychological aspect of the game, where you're fighting not only the narrator, but your internal monologue, as well as kind of being manipulated by the princess a little bit as you play, is really intriguing. And the game is dark, like super dark. This is definitely a mature rated game. There's some heavy themes here that are a little bit out of the ordinary for the things I typically cover, but I am just absolutely just blown away by the quality and the presentation that this game offers, and just simple, straightforward gameplay. You're answering questions, you're asking questions, and you're making decisions, and that's really the entirety of the game. But boy howdy is it fun. This is just a wonderful title. $17.99 if you're looking for a horror-themed visual novel. Check out Slay the Princess. Ooh, yeah! This month we have WrestleQuest. Now, WrestleQuest has been out for a while. This isn't a new game. This is something that released last year, and I just hadn't pulled the trigger on it. And I feel silly about that because it's the cream of the crop as far as fantastic, non-traditional wrestling games go. Now, yes, I'm making a lot of Macho Man Randy Savage references here because he's one of the main influences of the title. I absolutely adore this. This is a turn-based RPG featuring pro wrestling. And it goes into all the weird aspects of pro wrestling, whether it's the having to shop for face paint, or learning about kayfabe, or working on how to hype up your crowd or something like that. There's so much going on here that it's really impressive and it's really fun. And the way it's laid out, you're a series of toys. You're a child's plaything that has turned into this amazing wrestling federation, which is why you can have pro wrestlers fighting like stuffed hedgehogs and things like that. It's absolutely ridiculous, but it's such a fantastic concept and such a wonderful game developed here by my friends at Mega Cat Studios. This is one that is necessary to have on your list. If you are a fan of pro wrestling or just RPGs that are a little bit off the wall, WrestleQuest needs to be on your list. It's $29.99, and I can tell you without hesitation, you will not be disappointed in that purchase. I have been sitting on this game for a couple of months now. When I originally got my review copy of Sky Ocean's Wings for Hire, I will be honest with you guys, I was not overly impressed with it. The performance wasn't there, and it wasn't something that I wanted to recommend to you guys as a thing to purchase because I just couldn't, in good conscience, do that. It wasn't something that I felt strong enough about to look at and say, we can forgive some of the pitfalls on this game or some of the failings of this game because the rest of it is so good. But there was just a lot of little things that added up to a big pile that I thought needed to be addressed. And the 1.01 version of the game that recently released addressed so many of those concerns that I feel comfortable now telling you about this. This is a classic turn-based RPG that takes place in the sky. It's a little bit like Skies of Arcadia in that regard, in so much as it's very clearly inspired by it, but you're playing your own game that's telling its own story here. Combat is done in your plane against other flying creatures. You're able to go around and collect things in your plane, and you're able to land and move around different cities and things like that. There's a whole bunch of different environments, a beautiful soundtrack, just a lot of really quality things here. And the improvements, like I said, in the 1.01 patch that recently released, addresses so many performance issues and just makes this game nearly silky smooth to play. There's a few hiccups here and there, but I really do enjoy this one. This is a $24.99 game, and if you're looking for something that's a love letter to Skies of Arcadia and classic like Dreamcast era RPGs, check out Sky Ocean's Wings for Hire. Sometimes you just need to be the bad guy, and that's what happens with Necro Story, where you play as a necromancer. Now, you're not the most adept necromancer, you're a little bit inept, and you have been dead for a little while. And when you come back to life, you do have to kind of relearn your spells and level yourself back up, but the game is actually really fun. I really appreciate kind of the sense of humor and the kind of goofiness of this game, because it's a turn-based, but not turn-based. It's an active strategy. How can I describe this? It's both turn-based and active time, because your spells will work on a cooldown effect, but your characters are going to attack in turn. And the way the game works is as you're defeating enemies, you're actually collecting like soul points from them, and it works a little bit like Pokemon, and you're collecting all these different undead monsters. It's really great. I'm having a ton of fun with it. I am very impressed with the overall design of it. I really like kind of like the visual aesthetic and the animations in play, and I really enjoy the music and the sound effects in the game as well. Really fun title, really clever implementation of a kind of blended gameplay system, but it just really works. Now, when I have a choice between Michael Myers and Ashley Williams from The Evil Dead, I'm going with Ash every single time of day. Now, you can't go wrong with either Retro Realms game, but the one I want to talk about today is Ash vs. The Evil Dead. Now, both of these games are $24.99, and both of them will operate out of the Retro Realms shell as kind of like standalone arcade machines, but Ash vs. Evil Dead is one of the strongest 2D platformer hack-and-slash games I have ever played. Now, this is bloody violent, it is over the top, it is gory, it's gross, it is a hard M-rated game, but it is absolutely brilliant, and it is 100% a love letter to both the original Evil Dead and Army of Darkness series, as well as Ash vs. the Evil Dead on Stars. You play as Ash, there's other characters you can lock as well, you have a bunch of different abilities and skills that you're going to level up and be able to unlock as you play with different combos and different weapons and things like that, and it's just amazing. This is a game that I would have loved to have played on my Super Nintendo or Genesis back in the day, but we have it here today on our Switch and other systems as well. Like I said, this is a $24.99 game, and if you are looking for something that is just an absolute love letter to classic horror experiences, you can't go wrong with either entry from Retro Realms, but Ash vs. Evil Dead is my favorite. The second Metal Slug Tactics got announced, I said I'm getting that game the day it launches, and the second Metal Slug Tactics became available on the eShop, I immediately pulled the trigger, and I could not wait to spend my money on this game because I just love the Metal Slug series so much, and tactical strategy games are one of my favorite genres. And this game does something remarkably well. It blends the beauty of Metal Slug with a tactical strategy game, and it doesn't miss a beat. It feels like a natural fit, which I did not anticipate. I went in with some trepidation on this because Metal Slug is a run-and-gun shooter, and I did not know if it was going to translate perfectly into a tactical strategy game, and it just works. There's a ton of different maps for you to choose from, lots of characters from the Metal Slug series to both unlock and fight against. There's a really neat sync mechanic where you're able to kind of line your characters up the right way, and when they attack, if they're lined up appropriately, they're going to attack together, so you can actually deal more damage that way. And you really need to think about positioning and things like that in this game, more so than in other tactical strategy games that I've played. Absolutely loving this. If you are a fan of Metal Slug, this needs to be in your digital collection. There is also a physical release of it, so definitely look into that if you're curious about it. But digitally, it's a $24.99 game, and I have zero regrets on this purchase. There you have it, my friends. 10 fantastic Nintendo Switch eShop games. I think there's something here for everybody. I try to do that every month. I try to give a wide variety of genres, a wide variety of gameplay styles, so there's something appealing to everybody here. Let me know in the comments down below what your favorite game is that I featured this month. Let me know if there are any games you think I should be featuring on this series moving forward. And until next time, folks, remember to play more games, stay square, and take care. I'll talk to you soon.